Okay, have and have not fans. This video is going to be something that I should have done probably Thursday or Friday this week. But as you know from my previous videos I told you that I accidentally overslept on Tuesday night. So I missed the first 15 minutes or so of the haves and the have nots, basically when Hannah, Benny, Mitch, and Quincy Jr., experienced the aftermath of Warlock and his gang shooting up the motel, as well as the hilarious scene where Jeffrey goes to Veronica's room after finding out that Melissa slit her own wrist in a suicide attempt, and then Veronica's response to that before 911 showed up. And I'm laughing because I actually just rewatched that scene, about the first 15 minutes of the episode, so I could do this video. And when Jeffrey burst into Veronica's room, mom, Melissa, you gotta help me, Melissa. Put some bass in your voice, boy. As soon as she said that, I don't know about you, but I thought about Kevin Hart, his Uncle Richard Jr. It's like, say it with your chest. Say it with your chest. I don't know why, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, because I always, looking back, mom, every time Jeffrey, when he's nervous or, scared or whatever, he always goes back to that childlike voice, and he's always stuttering and stumbling over his words. So that scene was hilarious, not to mention, boy, what happened to you? What? You got blood all over you. And then Veronica's looking down because, again, remember last time he stabbed her in the chest, so she assumed the same thing happened to her. Then, they rush. Well, Jeffrey rushes back to the room. Veronica's just like, hey, you ruined everything I planned with the baby. You dumb bitch. I'd kill you myself. And then, the fact that Jeffrey and her kept going back and forth with the shove, and then he goes, "Shut the up." I mean, when they bleeped it, I was like, "Oh snap, okay, Jeffrey." It's like you stumble getting the bass. You stumble getting the bass in your voice, but dropping f bombs, like I don't know what. So that was a surprise there. And when when Veronica got those gloves, the black gloves, I believe she said something about not getting her fingerprints on there. This might sound messed up, but did anybody else think about O.J. Simpson? The black gloves that apparently shrunk were too small because they might have shrunk because of the blood. But again, just like the Kevin Hart thing, I thought that the black gloves, a dead woman, I don't know. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. Maybe that's just me. But in any case, I even did a video, which again, I'll have a link in the little corner in the right hand side. I did this video after the finale last season about, is Melissa damaged goods? Because remember, if the only way, I guess you say the only lifeline or tether that Veronica had on Melissa was, hey, you need to do what I tell you to do, or quote unquote what I bought you for, which is supply me with a healthy grandson, marry my son so he can leave his homosexual ways behind, and then I'll give your father his cancer medication. And also, if I'm not mistaken, Melissa's family, their business was about to go bankrupt. Veronica pretty much, I wouldn't say swooped in and saved them, but pretty much dangled their livelihoods over their heads in terms of, hey, you need to do this, or you're not going to get your business back. You're not going to save it. You need to do what I tell you to do, or your father's not going to get his medication. Now that her father's dead, Melissa, it's almost like Hannah in a sense. Quincy Jr.'s dead, so what does she have to live for? Like she said, what does she have to pray for? She doesn't have anything to pray for anymore. Then in Melissa's case, she went through all of this to save her dad, and then her dad died. And remember, if I'm not mistaken, Melissa even asked, hey, my dad didn't have his medication. When are you going to get it? And then Veronica's like, well, when you get my son to come around, then I'll give it to him. So honestly, that is Veronica's fault. I mean, yeah, she's like, he had cancer. He was going to die anyway. That may be true. But again, you can almost compare it to the Quincy and Candace situation where, yes, Jeffrey stabbed him, pretty much carved him like a Thanksgiving turkey, and he was bleeding out on the floor. But he was still alive, barely. And like he told Candace, if he called a 911, the ambulance to come pick me up and save me, he may not have died. Again, it's all about these characters who could have done something but didn't. It's like they indirectly caused the demise of somebody else, because again, Veronica had the ability to give or pay the medicine, pay for the medicine to give Melissa's dad, so we can, I don't know if it's to save his life, but to maybe study the cancer to the point where he wouldn't be deteriorating so rapidly. She had the power to do so. Candace had the power to simply call 911, and again, based off the part of town she was living in, it wouldn't surprise me if the doctors and whatnot came out quickly. So she had the ability to do that. All she did was just sit there and watch them die. And as a result, remember that Quincy Jr.'s medication was in Quincy's pocket. Of course, they didn't know he had, was it lupus or some other disease? But hey, I could just go on doing what ifs all day about this because there's so many comparisons to this scenario. And now that Melissa is in the hospital, the question is what's going to happen when she regains consciousness. And I mean, again, I don't think that this situation is going to turn Jeffrey around to be straight, but I did find it interesting that it's hard to say if I should say he cares about Melissa, but it's more like he's seen his mom screw over so many people. I don't think he wanted Melissa to be another one of them, because remember, it almost seemed like they had a moment. Of course, Jeffrey wasn't budging. Remember in the finale when Melissa was asking him about, who that guy was, referring to Justin. It's like, look, if I'm not mistaken, she can read body language or something like that. She was going to be, was it a lawyer or something, or counsel? I forgot. I need to go back and rewatch the episode. I know when Melissa and Jeffrey first went on that date, she said something about law school, and I figured, oh man, another female law student. So again, we have Veronica, who was in law school, then we have Candace, who was in law school, and now we have Melissa. But remember that Jeffrey was one class shy of getting his, if I'm not mistaken, counseling or psychology degree. So the fact that Melissa was able to read his body language so well, I mean, I figured, damn, they might actually make a good couple, if he was straight. But because if I'm not mistaken, she almost threatened, it's like, hey, you know what, if we plot to kill your mom, I just need the money to save my dad, then I can abort the baby and that's it. Jeffrey wasn't having it. She even offered to let Jeffrey sneak out of the house when Veronica was sleeping, because the way that Veronica goes around and checks on Melissa, like, clockwork, Melissa is used to the time frame. So it's like, hey, I know what time she passes out, so you can go, go see him, because she says my car's too cheap to be sitting down in front of her house. So she makes her park around the corner or something like that. And again, you really can't, I mean, honestly, for me, I felt sorry for Melissa. I don't like what she did to Jeffrey, because if I'm not mistaken, she said her mom was, all for it as well. So one could argue that Melissa's mom is, I don't know if she's as devious and whatnot, but she might be on the Veronica side in terms of how, hey, you know what? It's all about the end goal. It doesn't matter who I have to railroad or run over to get there. And the fact that she let her daughter, let her daughter get into this situation was something else. So I've said it many times before. It's like, what if Melissa's dad knew what was going on? Would he approve of everything she has been putting herself through in order to save his life? Again, it's sad though, the fact that he's passed away. We never know. We'll never know what he would have thought about it. If I'm not mistaken, the only time we were going to see him outside of the hospital bed was when he was going over to Veronica's house for their engagement party. But of course, due to the whole Jennifer Stallison and then Catherine, threatening and almost trying to kill Veronica, they didn't show up because Veronica wasn't there. So it's sad. Again, another character who has passed away, and then there's so many different plot points we don't even know about. So all I have to say is Veronica is a trip, just slapping her over and over again. I wonder if the doctor is going to ask, well, you say that she slit her wrist, so what's up with all those bruises on her body from the slaps? Like literally, wake up, girl, bitch, wake up. I couldn't take it. So again, I just watched the beginning of the episode, saw that part, and figured I had to do a video because, again, I thought about Kevin Hart, O.J. Simpson, just the fact that Veronica and Jeffrey were going at it, and wow. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this video to a close and ask you a few questions. Do you think the baby is okay? What do you think Melissa's going to do now that her father is dead? Remember, I mean, at this point, it's almost like she has nothing left to lose. There's no telling what she's going to do now. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And we left the episode off with Catherine showing up at the hospital with Veronica. What do you think is about to go down?